A wise man told me one time, much more wiser and spiritual than I am. He told me one time, he said, if you have a friend for 20 or more years, he's no longer a friend. He's family. So as I think about what to say about my sponsor, I wrote down some words. It's not that long. I put it in the program to time. Just a couple of pages. Would that be okay? Thank you. Thank you. And the reason why I say that is because first thing I can say about my sponsor is that I love him like a brother. But I have to admit, when I first met him, I couldn't really stand him. And I'm going to tell you why. You ever met a person who was just so smart, so intelligent, that when you ask him a question, he already dissected it and broken down, knew the exact answer before you can even finish asking the question. You know, and the sad thing about it was that he was most of the time he was right. You know, and he would say something like, "Well, what part did you play in that situation?" And I'd be thinking, man, I'm not trying to hear that right now, you know. But as I thought about it, he was usually right. But in all fairness, over the years, he has developed some really great listening skills as part of his professional training, and he's mellowed out a bit. You know, he let me wallow in my sorriness just a little longer than before. So I'm grateful for that. But, and I'm not going to tell the story, but I'm going to give you a glimpse for the newcomer how your life can change through this program. Before New Year's Day, 1993, over 22 years ago, before he came into the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous and stayed, William was a menace to society. So much so that he was locked up for so many years. Then when he got out, he was homeless for many years. But for the grace of God and learning and vigorously applying the spiritual principles of NA in his daily life, this once criminal homeless addict found a new way to live the NA way and reached the pinnacle of success in his personal, academic, and professional life and in the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous. For example, he reunited with his family after being away from them many years due to drugs. He went back to school and received his master's in clinical social work. In fact, he received 2 prestigious academic awards, the who's who's of students among colleges and among teachers, which made him one of the top students in America. He took that education and achieved success as a clinical counselor, which led to his promotion as a clinical director, managing other clinical counselors and facilities. Here you have a person who was once a patient, now he's a clinical director, because of the rooms in Narcotics Anonymous and the blessings of God. And while in the rooms of NA, William has dedicated his life to spread the clear message of NA, and that message is hope and the promise of freedom, that any addict can stop using drugs, lose a desire to use, and find a new way to live. And that's what William did. But sometimes in these rooms, people can be misguided with misinformation by the misinformed. And as a direct result of this misinformation, some addicts have relapsed. Some stay clean, but gone crazy. Some even committed suicide clean. So to combat this deadly disease and to help eradicate this dangerous misinformation, William began to set up NA study workshops throughout New York City. And he visited several hospitals and institutions, actively delivering the simple and clear message of NA, beginning early in his recovery and up until today. As a direct result of working on himself, his spiritual growth, and active service in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, William began to get invitations to share the clear NA message throughout New York, the surrounding states, and at various conventions and workshops throughout the United States. And as he spread the clear NA message far and wide, more people began to ask him to sponsor him. And over the years, several of the people he sponsored would go on to guide and sponsor other addicts, who we call sponsees. And those sponsees began to sponsor others who we call grand sponsees. So and these sponsees began to sponsor each other. We would call them a bloodline. So many of William's sponsees and grand sponsees will come together and form what may call his bloodline. But William took this bloodline of his sponsee brother to a next level. He founded an organization called Brothers Helping Others.
All right.
We meet every 6 months for a whole weekend at a resort in the mountains of upstate New York. And we delve deep into the spiritual principles of the 12 steps of NA. And while addressing the most troubling issues that we may have stunted our spiritual growth during the last 6 months. From early morning, all day, to late at night. And what felt more like an NA boot camp than a weekend spiritual retreat. Afterwards, we would come down from the mountains as free men. Free from the horrors of our tradition. And freer from the records of our past than we ever was before we went to the mountains. So in closing, and thank you for that, William. You helped save my life for the retreats, man. Now that he's retired as a clinical director and active with his organization, Brothers Helping Others, William is now positioned to take his clear NA message to the next level by offering his spiritual workshops and retreats throughout the United States, possibly right here in Rome, and perhaps someday soon throughout the world. So without further ado, I present to you my sponsor, my friend, my brother, William F. I know you're mad at me, but he hates something like that. Good afternoon, family. I'm blessed and grateful recovering addict. My name just happened to be William F. It just happens to be William F. because it's not 91R 7854 anymore. I was good at keeping those numbers from the time I was 11. They used to always had a number for me rather than a name. At 11 years old, the first time they locked me up was for 5 years. They threw a firecracker at me one day and burned my uniform shirt. I was going to Catholic school in 1959, and they burned the shirt. My mom got kind of bent out of shape, and I got my behind kind of bent into a new direction. And so with my little bit of anger that I had behind that, I next day caught them at the bus when they were loading up, and I just happened to throw a bag full of cherry bombs inside with it, one of them lit. I don't see anything wrong. One good turn deserves another as far as I was concerned, but they told me it was an insane act. Please don't do that. I get very distracted. All right. The disease of addiction doesn't rest because you get clean. And I am grateful that I suffered from a disease that had me in a state of total and state of hopelessness, which is called desperation. When I came home in '93 from jail, it was like one of those again, and it was so many of those agains that my family had gone through before that they didn't give me a key for the first 9 days I was home. I was getting keychains with no keys to put on. And I'm grateful that the Rules of Narcotics Anonymous was one that was open to giving me some suggestions rather than the commands that I was used to following, like on the chow, on the count, on the pack up, on the move, on the program. I knew how to do that well. That's why I kept going back. Because it was easier to be locked up than it was to live. It was easier to be homeless than it was to pay rent.
And it wasn't because I couldn't read, write, do arithmetic, because the federal government says I can't work in banks and handle money still today. Because I handled a whole lot of their money, and I wasn't playing. I was at war. I've always been combative. I've always been well-read, well-informed. Sometimes people think it's great that I can remember that on page 3 and who's an addict. It talks about the detection, diagnosis, and treatment is difficult. And the reason why it's difficult is because I have to do the diagnosis. I have to get honest about what I'm suffering from. I'm suffering from a disease that's rooted in fear, low self-esteem, gives me a general negative outlook on life, and I'm going to see what's wrong with something before I can see what's right with it. I stayed mad for 2 months because when I came to the meeting, they said if you don't pick it up, you can't get high. I couldn't figure that out. But I can tell you what, I figured out how to be one of the best cutters and doing a whole lot of other stuff and going places that I shouldn't have been and out of the country without a passport. But life has a way of taking the golden bird and letting him burn. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for being homeless for 8 years because now I have keys to homes in Pennsylvania, Georgia, New York, and Israel. These are keys to symbolize that I'll never be homeless again in my life by family and friends that know what it was like for me. Now, I'm going to tell you what happens. For this addict, it's always been about the 10 chapters, 100 pages. Edition number 6 is cool, but edition number 5 is what I know. And I'm going to tell you what I found out is like that. And why is it in 10 chapters? It tells me that the steps of my solution to my ongoing dilemma. It works how and why it says that this is not a 3-step program, it's a 12-step program. And I never was good at the cha-cha anyway. I can't deal with half information. It's just not in my character. When I go in, I have to know all the ins and outs and what it's going to be and how it's going to be, and I'm going to ask the questions. And I'm not afraid to ask myself some questions. And I'm grateful that I've only had 2 sponsors in this process, and both of them said the same thing. You are pretty smart. You know when to come and ask for help. See, with 22 years, 4 months, and 24 days, I still do drive-bys by my sponsor. And what do I mean by a drive-by? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to ask him first, because I don't trust my own thinking. Amen. Now, I got degrees from some prestigious universities, and they've invited me back to do doctoral programs, and I've gone back, and I've done very well in them, and I quit. I quit because, you know what, I really didn't want it. And I have a right to quit. I don't have to get it because everybody else wants it for me. I'm not people-pleasing today. That's a big chunk of time and effort that I really believe that I deserve some time to play. And how do I play? I play with dictionaries and lexicons and tomes. These are books of information about this disease called addiction, because you know what, as smart as I am, I can outsmart myself because I remember the commercials I used to make. I'm not going to do this again. Hide my money from me. I'm going to pay the rent this week. What was the other game I played? I get paid at 10, I'm only going to get 1. By 12 o'clock, it was a few. Before I got off at 3, done what? I got a bundle here. I got a complete package by the time I get to the man. I have a disease that will allow me to fool myself into some funny spots. Like My process is I live the 12 steps. I can't play with them. I'm not one of those fortunate people that can do something part-time in where it comes to that area. Like the first step is I admit I was powerless over my addiction, but it's one thing to admit you're powerless over your addiction, but what is my addiction? So I have to find that out. See, because if I don't know what my addiction is, my addiction will have me using.
That's right.
And see, and like in Webster's Dictionary number 9, collegiate dictionary, by the way, it has 7 descriptions of a narcotic. And one of the last ones used was it says anything that soothes, eases, or lulls me into a state of euphoria. And what does that mean? That means the same thing a drug will do to me when I first start, but it doesn't last long enough, so I got to do it again. So like I got some things that I was introduced called the exact nature of my wrongs. And I found out with those things that, man, they pop up without my permission, and I can get stuck like Chuck without a buck and be in the midst of the grip of it and don't know how to get out with the information. See, because I'm so smart, I might think I need step 2 when I really need to be in step 11. See, because my general negative outlook on life won't allow me to pick the right tool at the right time when I'm stuck. So I have a sponsor that knows, you better be ready, because when I'm stuck, I'm coming. And we got a thing. I don't tell him what I'm coming for, because I don't really know, because I'm in the grip of it. See, I'm smart enough to know that something ain't right, then I better be talking to him. Now, when I go to talk to him, I need to tell you that the man is a master carpenter, and I'm grateful that he only has a 3rd grade education, because he's taught me how to simplify my disease. See, I look at it for what it is, not for what it isn't. See, because in another look, I can get very creative with how to use some character defects and shortcomings. What about them bad boys? My greatest problem is I like to fool around with dereliction. I want somebody else to be responsible for the outcome of whatever I'm doing. And by the way, I do not give them the script. They're supposed to know. They got a memo. It's all about me. I'm like, my ego is there. It stays right there. It doesn't go anywhere. But you know what? Humility is a wonderful thing.
Amen.
It allows me to ask for help before I hurt myself.
Amen.
I don't have to stay stuck as long as I used to be stuck. Like when the judge used to tell me you got 3, you're going to go up there and you're going to do 1.5 to 3. And he says in years when I get there, they'll be talking about you got 1,814 days. What? I can do math. That's more than 3 years. But you know what? You get time off for good behavior. You get this, that, and the other thing. Listen, I got so good at jailing that I used to go up. By the time they sent me upstate New York, I already had enough time to go on a furlough. See, I told you, I might do some stupid stuff, but I am pretty smart what to do once I get caught. See, I have a very good penmanship, like I know how to create visits for people. And if you pay the right price, you can get a visit from somebody that don't want to visit you. You just got to know how to ask them. See, I know how to use a lot of stuff, but what I'm learning to do is learning how not to use me. In the thing it says, most of all, I harm myself. See, I'm the same guy that used to wait until I get caught to want to get in touch with people. I ain't had time for you when the using was happening. But as soon as I got caught, man, and the commissary was needed, I was the man. Listen, I'm here at so-and-so, he said, and the last time he says, again? He says, you was just there on July 7th. Why are you calling me on July 14th? Well, I got caught again. Oh, by the way, I was supposed to be reporting to court on the 16th. That's what using did for me. Now, the solution is, how long do I want to stay stuck? How long do I want other people telling me what time to get up? Feed me food that I don't want to eat. Send me on a program to plant trees in a place where I can't go see the tree. Paint a church I'm not allowed to attend. Clean a road that I can't drive on. I live in New York, man. I'm not going upstate to live. I get snow in Brooklyn, man. I'm not trying to get upstate snow. But I shoveled a lot of it. See, I know what they mean when they say high cost for low living. Check the inventory. You can have a lot of money, but when you spread it out over the days and time that you're doing, it ain't that much money. See, I know how to play the bullpen therapy. I no longer have to do that. I no longer have to get myself locked into a corner where I can't come out of clean. You know, that 10-step stuff. You know, not knowing what the first 9 are about. You know, real simple stuff. I got honest about and surrendered about that. You know what? I have a lot of information. There's a lot of information that's offered about how to help me deal with my low self-esteem. But see, it didn't. I had to find out about the self-sabotage piece. You see, you know, insanity is repeating the same mistake, expecting different results. How about knowing the results but doing it anyway? With clean time. You see, I ain't talking to just a newcomer that's walking in here counting days. I'm talking about those of us who've been here for a minute. See, because the meeting is about all of us. It's not for any one of us. You see, like, I understand why I turned my will and my life over to the care of God. Now I understand why I take it back. And I know why I have to turn it over again. And it don't take me long as it used to. See, I understand what a resentment really is, not what I think it is. See, because I did my patterns. I did my inventory. I introduced myself to a guy I always running away from. Me. See, now that I know me, what do I do about me? What am I willing to do for me? Am I willing to accept the fact that I did the wrongs? Am I ready to entirely stop doing those type of wrongs? Well, I'm here to tell you that if I didn't know the exact nature of my wrongs, I would never know the exact nature of my rights.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, sister, I didn't mean to touch you like that.
Thank you.
When I'm entirely ready to give up a character defect, I'm not sure how that still works for me, even after all these years, but I know that when I get with my smarts, I find a way to simply just let it go. See, I can say I'm entirely ready, and I can be talking about how I'm going to be better, and I'm going to do this, and I got all these things that I say I'm going to do, but what am I doing? See, as a human being, I can always do myself wrong, but it's okay to make a mistake, but at least let it be a new one once in a while. Just once in a while. It's not that I change. How about doing the same mistake with a different person? Wait a minute, what was that about? I thought I had changed. You know what I found out that I have to do to really make sure I change? I have to invite God to the process. When I invite my God to the process, things seem to go so much better than when I don't.
Yes, yes.
Okay? Because see, like, I can get rid of a character defect when I invite him to the process of getting rid of it, but if I get rid of it because my ego is telling me it hurts, I'm just going to hurt some more. And I ain't going to hurt differently. I'm going to hurt the same way even if somebody else is trying to help me. Because I'm going to practice that game. I heard you, but I'm not listening. See, there's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is, y'all heard that, right? Listening is knowing why I did it. It's to show you the difference between hearing and listening. It's done with a purpose. You see, I understood a lot of stuff about a whole lot of things, but I had a whole lot of misinformation and misinterpretations of my own going on. And then I surrounded myself with people that were intelligent and were able to allow me to be intelligent. Because I came from a place where I wasn't supposed to be intelligent. You see, you're looking at a cat that, like in 1955, when Brown versus Board of Education first came law, I was the first practitioner that they sent 63 miles away from home because of my last name. And when I got there, they told me I wasn't allowed. I've had wonderful jobs offered to me in my lifetime, but you know what? My resume said that I was all that. I could do all that, but when I showed up, the positions were always filled. And I'm okay with that because you know what? I had to look at the pattern of which the part I played in. Sometimes I would like soup my resume up because I know how to play with the English language. You know, I'm very good with feminine. You know, I can manifest some stuff that will make me think I'm walking on water and, you know, sailing on the sea and doing a whole lot of stuff that I don't do. I can soup it up, but can I keep it up? And the Muslim Narcotics Anonymous, I found that I was tired of being a fake and wanted to find out who I really was, so I did my fourth step. You know, like I don't get confused about shortcomings and character defects. Character defects are my overused, overblown, identified process of dealing with things that are faulty. Like forgetting I have low self-esteem because I have so much ego. And then when going into a meeting, all of a sudden the low self-esteem shows up, and all of a sudden I have all the information, but I don't know how to speak. Or I'm speaking so fast that they can't understand what I'm saying because I want to get it out fast so they don't really understand what I'm saying so I can get it, walk out of that room and they'll be confused about what I said. I'm a good at it. I do that to myself all the time. I do it in the mirror sometimes with my self-affirmation. I ain't sure I want to be affirmed that way, but I'm going to do it to say I did it. But am I living it? See, it's the difference when you live this program. It's so simple that it just makes me sometimes sick to my stomach, and it makes me laugh at the stupid choice I would have made if I didn't live it. I know how to isolate in a room full of people. Y'all ain't here. It's that simple. Or I come into the room and my butt's on fire. I want to raise my hand, talk for 20 minutes, and then something. But don't nobody tell me don't nobody share with me after this, and don't share after me about what I just said. Hostility in a place where we're supposed to be practicing unconditional love. And if I didn't want help, why did I come to a meeting? See, the confusion, the baffling aspect of this disease is I really want to help, but I'm afraid that if I get somebody helps me, I might have to get right. I don't want the responsibility of doing the next right thing. I like being a derelict. I ain't responsible for none of the bad stuff. I can take credit for all the good stuff. How that working for you? It had me totally confused. It ain't even amusing. They talk about this disease being insidious. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes with knowledge, this disease can be invidious if I'm not practicing what I know. Now, insidious is the stealthy part of the disease that'll tell you that you got something going on that you ain't really got going on, but you think you got it going on, so you try to keep it going on, then ain't nothing happening with it, though. I got a sponsor, I'm not I have like having a sponsor and not using a sponsor. How does that work? And how about having all this information and going to your sponsor and asking them a simple question like, you know what I was thinking about? And as soon as I start that, you know what he does? He gets up and he says, wait a minute. He goes and puts on a pot of coffee because he knows we're in for a real struggle. Because I'm confused. And it's okay to be confused, but it's not okay to stay confused. I didn't come in here to be stuck like Chuck without a buck with $1 in my pocket. And if you don't get that, keep coming. You'll find out what that means soon. I mean, how can I be in the 12-step program and not practice it for a little while to see if it works? How can I say I'm too tired to go support somebody that's always supporting me? So in this vein, like all that other stuff you heard, check this out. You know what's great, and you know why I'm here? Because I asked him a question when he asked me to sponsor him, and I ask this of every man that comes into my life. You ask me to sponsor, I'm going to ask you this one simple question. I can't sponsor you unless you're willing to sponsor me. I mean, who am I not to take you in my life and not have an equal exchange? To have that two-way street that we talk about having. How about calling your sponsor when you're in trouble and letting him know how you stuck, so he knows who you really are versus who you want him to think that you are. Every man in my life can sponsor me, and I don't have to go out and use a drug. But there's some other things I use that are worse than a drug. See, I can get into a computer and start getting that information stuff going on and forget about every responsibility I have. I'm addicted to the information. Yes. I have so many different dictionaries on my computer that it's got a whole section that says my favorites dictionaries. And I go there and I can't just read one because I might not agree with the definition it's given, so I need it to be confirmed. So you start at 5 o'clock in the morning, you end up, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you had a 9:30 appointment, and you're still looking at the information. Clean, but still have that same obsessive and compulsive behavior as if I'm using.
That's right.
And it ain't nothing wrong with looking up the information and living the information. But it needs to be done in a timely manner and not make my life unmanageable. And when it becomes unmanageable, what do? Do I just say, oops, I made a mistake? No, I have to go and talk to my sponsor I'm sorry. I'm calling somebody. You know what? I did it again. What'd you do? Well, I woke up at 5 o'clock. Okay. That's a good time. Did you go out and ride your bike? No, I turned on the computer. Well, maybe when you got an appointment, you need not to turn on your computer. And then I'm angry because I should have figured that out. That's part of self-loathing that you find in your steps when you do a little bit further. That self-loathing part that you hate yourself, that hate you have for yourself, it doesn't go away. It just gets arrested a day at a time. And when you find yourself making the same mistake, like turning on the computer and staying stuck in it for an hour and a half when you only meant to read the sports section, and something else popped in and said, "Oh, let me just check that out real quick." The disease of addiction is very, would they say baffling? Baffling is one thing, but I like the cunning part of it. Because see, I can be my own Iago, and that Shakespearean guy that was in Othello. He had everybody killing everybody. And that's who I become sometimes within my own framework of who I am. I become my own Iago. I'm always killing myself or finding ways to hurt myself or sabotage something good. We're 22 years clean, working the 12 steps, running 12-step retreats for over 10 years. We go up in the mountains, yes, and we do, and I do facilitate. Because they need to understand that when they go home, they need to do whatever they say they're going to do, because I'm going to call them and check. Oh, so how you doing with this? You talk about it and what you're doing about it. Because listen to this. If we are each other's eyes and ears, let's do each other a favor and do something good with ourselves instead of talking about it. I believe in change. I totally believe in the change process. I remember coming into this room once again from the state pen without a clue what I was going to do when I grew up. But I was smart enough to have a sponsor that told me, sit up front, take the cotton out of your ears, put it in your mouth, learn to listen. Listening is not an art. Listening is a gift. You do the work, you'll find out what a gift it is. You start hearing things. Give you an example. This is going to be like some 7-step stuff. My son was sending me on the 9th step. He's not in recovery. But he said I need to go speak to his mom one-on-one so he could we could celebrate some events with my grandkids. Because he was tired of coming to my house, being over our house for 4 days to come in and see me for 2 hours. He says, I don't think that's fair. You're the one that comes down to the house, you do this, y'all. You need to go over there and resolve that. I looked at him like he had 3 heads. Nigga, please. I ain't seen that woman since 82. I ain't trying to do no kind of meeting with her. I woke up the next Sunday morning. I opened up my basic text, my Works on Why, and it says sometimes God will remove a shortcoming by having others, not necessarily recovering addict is another. My son is another. I went, got in my car, drove to another borough, walked up to the house I paid for, knocked on the door. She opened up the front door, the screen door was locked. It never opened. I asked her, would it be possible for us to go down to Pennsylvania to the kid's birthday and holidays, and I would just, you're not riding with me. I didn't ask you to ride with me. I have my own car. I really didn't come do that. I just wanted to know, would you be comfortable enough to let me come down for a couple of hours during the event? I will leave. You can stay. I don't need your permission to stay. That's not what I'm saying. I see this nice step. It's not going too well. I'm seeing it through her final words to me. I'll let my son know. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I walked away from the house. I got in my car, started the engine. It's a corner house. I'm parked right in front of the door. I get to the corner and make the turn. As soon as I make the turn, God said, you free. Before I did that, I had this invisible hidden tether, this string that was around my neck like a leash. I was tied to the woman because of the marriage and the children and my guilt that I wasn't there. And all of that went out the window when she said she had to talk to my son. And guess what? I've had a wonderful monogamous relationship since.
Amen.
I couldn't do that before. I'm talking about living the program. I'm not talking about practice. I'm not talking about practice no more. I'm talking about what I did. Not something I read in the book, not something that somebody else said. Because sometimes God will give it to you so clean and so simple that it doesn't make sense. Like if you don't pick it up, you can't get high. Like this is a 12-step, not a 3-step program. It Works on Why, page 35 says, we've realized that the people who don't work this crucial step do what? Relapse. I ain't trying to have that. I relapse, I don't go to detoxes, rehabs, and all those nice places where I speak at. It's life. The calculator's broke, the typewriter's in effect, the judge told me he was old enough to be my grandfather, he probably doesn't even exist, but I know he wrote it down in the book. Because that's what they do. And so, like I go into penitentiaries and I carry this life-saving message. And the beautiful part is I get to go home. Amen. When the first time I did that door clank, I was grateful that I had done my 12 steps. Because I know God's will for me was to go in and deliver a message of hope and not a message drifting with a drug-a-log. That you too can come out and live free. That you have an opportunity, but you've been given an opportunity, which is the hope. From the state of desperation that brings us here, the hope is having an opportunity presented every day. And every day, I live on the hope that no matter what's going on, it's going to be all right. And guess what? I want to thank you for inviting me down. I didn't appreciate I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to talk about this stuff. I can tell my own story. Amen. But here's the real deal. The part that he played in my life and sponsored me is when I started this thing called Brothers Helping Others, right? And I was going up every 6 months. He was one time drove from Texas to New York to be there. 3 times he's flown there, and he's never, ever asked for a rebate on the fee to pay. And when he could only get there, I felt it my responsibility to pay for him to be there after he spent round-trip airfare. Because that's only fair. I'm sponsoring him when he gets there, but you know what? His desire to be there and my desire to have him there was a wonderful blend. And so when he sent me this thing, like I'm in the middle of one of the hottest sales in the history of my life, and I'm down here in Georgia helping him celebrate. And when the person asked me, do I really have to go? I said, excuse me, I wouldn't have asked you for the time if I didn't. And besides, I'm not obligated to be anywhere. I come here because I want to be here, and I want you to understand that I'm going there. Just like when you need to go to Delaware to do what you do, I need to go to Georgia to do what I'm going to do. And he looked at me like, I've never seen you that assertive about something. Because usually I cave. And so I went to his daughter when she walked in. I said, listen, you're going to have Dad this weekend because I'm gone. And I'm loving it. And even with all the stuff, because see, we're good on the telephone and all the rest of that stuff because of the distance. But there are some things that happen with telephone conversations that don't happen when you're in my face. Like those little oops stuff, that, wait a minute, what part of this step is that? Sometimes, sponsors have to call it like it is. My sponsors don't, they tell me, see, here's what they tell me. I would have called you, but. Well, see, and as you didn't call me, but, I hang up my phone. Now people say, why you do that? Excuse me. Why should I be subjected to his using me? That ain't happening. I don't use them, they don't use me. We help each other or we're not helping each other. And you know what? One of us can die by not calling the telephone. Do you really know if your sponsors are right? Because it is a human being that you're dealing with. It ain't always about calling your sponsor. This is the one that gets me the most. When you're on fire, you call, but when you ain't on fire, you don't call to see how I'm doing. I let them know that I'm not the sanitation department, I'm not the fire department. This is Narcotics Anonymous. Make a new attempt at doing what you're doing and sponsoring me. Let's get a new attitude about how we're going to deal with each other, because I will call you if you don't call me. I have no problem with that. That was part of the reason why I asked you to sponsor me. It ain't about your job to call me all the time. How about me calling you when I need it? Or I haven't heard from you in a while. Because sometimes frozen in fear and guilt. Sponsor doesn't call you for a couple of weeks. Now he's stuck because he don't know if what he should do, and especially if they do. I got a new one that I told him, if you don't call me every day, I'm calling you. And so the first 2 days I called him, he says, don't call me no more, I'm calling you every day. I said, why? He says, because I know I was supposed to call you. I said, no, I'm supposed to call you when you don't call me. You're new to this. You don't have the grip. Even though you were here before you relapsed, we've done some things that you've never done before. Like build a relationship in 141 days clean. Like on the first step. And can share on it and understand what he's saying. The first year is a gift. It depends on what you're giving them. I know what I got my first year. I was grateful for my sponsor, who, by the way, lives down here in Georgia. My first sponsor lives in Georgia, but every place I go is a little too far for him to come, so I don't even bother him when I come. I don't want to be in any relationship past its expiration date. If you don't consider my trip from New York enough for you to come see me, then I ain't going to extend my trip. I go out of my way to come see you. I used to do that. But I found out that was because I was feeling a need. I was feeling a want rather than a need. I wanted to continue the relationship, and you had already moved past it. So, folks, I hope that I've said something that will help you in your recovery. Those of us who have worked the previous the 12 steps, we must remember that the maintenance steps are there for a reason. I'm grateful for the 10th step that I do regularly, because I can also, what I do is I do it while my interactions with the people that I'm connected with. And not only was it an honor to come to Georgia to speak for you, but I also got a text from one of my sponsors that he's going to be speaking at the World. Good things happen when people do good things. So you're invited to a place where good things happen. And when bad things happen, you got company. You got help. And I want to thank you so much for the strength that you showed and the honesty that you declared about not having a sponsor, young lady. And I'm hoping that the women step up and do what they do, like we do in my home group. And my home group meets in Brooklyn on Sundays at 6 o'clock. And it's relationships and recovery, because why? Relationships are a state of being connected by some understood involvement. And I really don't understand all the involvements that are required in a relationship, so I need to be in relationship meetings to find out how to be in a relationship. My name is William F. Thanks for letting me share.